I'm so pleased to join JDC and Jewish communities around the world in welcoming Hanukkah, even though it's a few days early. But who doesn't love a head start on latkes and my personal favorite, sufganiyot? Growing up in Mexico City, I always loved Hanukkah. Now, Hanukkah in Mexico is not such a huge festivity as it is here, but I definitely have a lot of memories and reflections, and a lot of those have to do with my dad. As an adult and a mother, it's a treasure time. I love doing these traditions with my son. It's about keeping the memories alive, but also to give continuity to all these traditions that are so special to me. This year, though, Hanukkah is taking on a new meaning. It's a chance to celebrate the unbreakable connections between Jews all around the world. I'm thrilled we'll all have the chance to learn more about JDC's important work tonight and hear from amazing leaders in the United Kingdom, Israel, Hungary, and Ukraine. I've been so excited to learn more about JDC's work in Latin America, which is especially close to my heart. From Argentina to Cuba and Venezuela to Mexico, where I'm from. They're caring for vulnerable Jews, investing in Jewish leaders, bringing together people from across the region. They're also empowering women and young people, which makes me especially proud. It's a pleasure to spend Hanukkah with JDC and with all of you. It's one of my favorite holidays, and I love how it teaches us we all have the power to be a light in the darkness. These days, that's the message that brings me hope. And tonight, I'm thrilled to make sufganiyot with you. While I gather my ingredients, let's head to Israel for a special reflection and song.
Hi everyone, it's great to be here with you this evening. My name is Lipaz Ela. I'm the founder and CEO of Minyan, a new generation of Jewish life in Israel. We're creating spiritual experiences that based out of Jewish tradition, from Shabbat gathering, holiday gathering, and different rituals that bring us together in this not traditional spaces. I'm glad to be here this evening with my great partner, Daniela.
Hello everyone, I am Daniela Dvash. I am a voice artist. I believe in the power of prayer to connect our heart and voices. I work with community through music to foster healing, unity and harmony. And we all have this transformative strength in ourselves to heal.
This year in Israel was such a challenging year. We experienced collective trauma, immense amount of grief and sadness. And what we'd like to offer tonight to do with you guys is a small teaching for Hanukkah and for the meaning of light and darkness. You know, Hanukkah is a holiday that talks about light, but something that we often don't think about is where does light come from? And I want to bring us back to the first verse of light and darkness, to Genesis, to the beginning of Genesis. We're taught and we're reading that God created the heaven and the earth, the choshech al pnei tehom, and darkness was spread around the entire world. And then God said, Vayhi o, let it be light, and the light came. And the verse afterwards, the commentaries tells us that darkness was created, but light was formed. Now, what is the difference between creating and forming? Creation is creating something out of nothing, right? The darkness was created out of nothing. And light is a forming. Forming is creating out of something. So if light was formed, what was it formed from? And we've been taught through the commentaries that light was formed from the creation of darkness. And through this lens, I lived this entire year here. We had immense amount of darkness that surrounded us. But the belief that we can form light out of this darkness, it's something that continues with us, and it's something that I hold in this holiday into the future of Israel and the Jewish people. It's something that we can also connect to this perspective of Rabbi Nachman, right? He says that Kol ha'olam kulo is gesher tzar me'od. This entire world is a narrow bridge. And in my mind, in my commentary, we've been living on a very narrow bridge in the past year. Va'ikar lo lefachad klal. And we need not to be scared and not to be startled by this darkness. We need to remember that from this darkness, we can take a ray of light. Light and darkness are intertwined. and one is formed out of the other. I'd like to invite you to sing with us. We're gonna sing a song, Nigun Berdichev. It starts with the words, you fall down and you get back up. And we're gonna repeat that. And then it's gonna end with Kol ha'olam kulo, gesher tzar me'od. And we're gonna sing it together.
Diri yama, 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 oy, 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 ay, ay. You fall down, you get back up. You fall down, you get back up. Sheva yipol tzadik. You fall down, you get back up. You fall down, you get back up. Sheva yipol tzadik. Haya yama yama. Diri yama yama yama. Yama yama yama. Diri yama yama yama. Kol ha'olam kulo, kol ha'olam kulo, gesher tzar me'od. Kol ha'olam kulo, kol ha'olam kulo, gesher tzar me'od. והעיקר לא להתפחד כלל. והעיקר לא להתפחד כלל. והעיקר לא להתפחד כלל. והעיקר לא להתפחד כלל. You fall down, you get back up. You fall down, you get back up. Sheva yipol tzadik.
Thank you so much for being with us. Let us all spread so much light in this holiday. And I want to remind you, when you're coming to visit us here in Israel, here in Jaffa, please come. Follow us, Minyan TLV, Daniela Dvash, and come and celebrate with us. Toda rabba.
תודה רבה.
Toda rabba, that was so beautiful. Now I'm gonna start making my sufganiyot. I'm very excited to share this recipe, which I have in my Sweet Mexico cookbook, and hope that you are inspired to make them at home. We're gonna start, this is some room temperature milk. We're gonna take a little bit of the milk and we're gonna put the yeast. You're just doing this to make sure the yeast is working. You can already see right away because it's nice and bubbly. Now in Mexico, I grew up in Mexico City, and Hanukkah wasn't such a big deal like it is in the States, but there were always donuts, for sure. So we're gonna set this aside for a few minutes, but I can already tell that this is great yeast. While that bubbles, we need some whole eggs, and then we need 5 yolks. So I'm gonna separate them. And then you can use the egg whites for something else. It's important to have these room temperature. That's just gonna make the dough rise nicer and faster, so it's not like fighting with the rest of the ingredients. That's like in general for most baking. My son really loves to do this part. Today we're gonna use a little bit of lime zest. I couldn't decide if I wanted lemon or lime, but I'm feeling lime, you know. I grew up in Mexico. Lemons aren't very common, actually. You can't find them in a lot of places, but lime, I put lime on everything. And they just have this really nice tartness to it. You can combine, so you can put a little bit of nutmeg, vanilla extract, cinnamon, whatever you want. It's just like a little bit of seasoning, but I think that with the fillings, the little bit of citrus adds some really nice balance to it. All right. When you're cooking, especially in baking, it's about, I know people are like, oh, it's so precise. It has to be so precise. I always like to say I'm kind of like the anti-pastry chef, because if you follow these recipes, you know, the flour is different, the altitude may be different. Mexico City is very high. The flour here in the States and in many other parts of the world, you can get so many different kinds of like all-purpose flour with like different protein contents. In Mexico, you can just get one kind of flour. You know, I think you have to adapt and really feel what you're cooking. So use the recipes, even in baking, in my opinion, as a guide, but you know, follow your instincts. All right, so let's take a look. So this looks great. It's nice and bubbly. We're gonna put, it's about 3/4 cups of sugar into a mixer. If you don't have a mixer, you can do this by hand, but this will take a long time and a lot of arm, but you can do it. So we're gonna just mix this very slowly just to incorporate them together. This one is a little bit thick, so I'm gonna add a little bit of milk to it just so I can pour it easier. Okay, so we're gonna add the yeast. I love the smell of yeast. I don't know, there's something magical. It's like, you know, magic's about to start happening. And don't worry if you feel like it looks a little bit lumpy, everything's gonna dissolve. So you really wanna get as much as you can as possible, because this is what's gonna make it rise nice and beautiful. And you want nice plump sufganiyot. So once you have that, you're gonna put your flavoring in, whatever it is that you have. You wanna stop it for a second. So as you add these ingredients, once in a while you wanna stop just to make sure you scrape the bottom and everything gets truly mixed in. So in here we have the sugar, the flour, the lime zest, and the yeast that was mixed with a little bit of milk ahead of time. And now we're going to add our eggs, our egg yolks, our salt, the rest of the milk, and then we're gonna have them mix for a little while until they start to come together, and we're gonna add the room temperature butter at the end. You wanna make sure not to add everything at once, just little by little. So once everything is in here, you wanna increase the velocity of the mixer so that you really start getting all that gluten activated and a nice elastic dough. And it may seem like it's not gonna come together, but it's gonna come together. Now the recipe calls from between 4 and 4.5 cups of flour. So resist the temptation of adding flour at this time. Just start at 4 cups. This is the hardest part, to wait. Patience. Once I see all the ingredients from the bottom adhere to the dough, we're gonna add our room temperature butter little by little. So if you can see, it all came together. So now we're getting ready to add our butter. And the same as in the eggs, you don't want to add them all at once. I just realized I forgot to put the salt. Don't worry, see? You can just add it, it's just a pinch of salt. And while this mixes, you want to have a big bowl ready and you want to grease it. And so you can do that while you wait for this. The dough is looking very sticky, and that's normal because now it starts to create the elasticity. I'm going to stop it for a second. So you can see sort of that nice stretch of the dough. So that's coming out really nicely, but if I pull it, it breaks apart very easily. So it's not quite there. Right now, we're just trying to get to that consistency. So I don't know if you can see how it's starting to sort of pull from the sides, from the bottom. Okay, so now we grab a piece and you can see it's like a see-through window, and the dough has like a nice elasticity, like really nice pull, and it doesn't come apart, where before we were pulling, I was pulling just a little bit and it was easily breaking apart. All right, so now this can easily come out and it's really nice. Like I hold it and there's nothing sticking to my hand. So that's a beautiful dough. At this point, if you feel like you have the nice elasticity, but it's still sticking a little bit to your hand or to the edges, then you add just a little bit of flour, but this is ready to go. We're gonna take it out of the bowl and put it into the greased one that we have. I like to use this dough scraper. It's gonna feel sort of tight, but it's really beautiful dough. All right, so once you have everything together, I like to just pull a little bit from the bottom so that you form sort of like a ball, and then I like to sort of lift it and then turn it around. See how beautiful that is? This makes me so happy. Okay, so now you're gonna put it back there, and then you can put some plastic wrap or bag, and you wanna put it in a warm place. I turn my oven on at the lowest setting for 10 minutes, and then I turn it off. And I do that before I even start measuring the ingredients, because you don't want it to be too hot that it kills the yeast. What you don't wanna do is you don't wanna put it right on top of the oven. And then when you put it in the oven, you can also put a little bit of water, and so that creates kind of like a steam. We're gonna let the dough rest for about 45 minutes, and we're gonna check it, and we're gonna see if it has doubled, and if not, it may need like another 15 or 30 minutes longer, and then we're gonna continue with the rest of the sufganiyot making. Now I'm very happy to introduce Ariel Swank, JDC CEO, for a special update on global Jewish life and what makes Hanukkah especially meaningful this year.
Thanks, Fany. I'm really excited to see how those donuts turn out. I'm Ariel Zwang, and I'm very proud to be JDC's CEO. I'm glad to join this special event once again. Hanukkah teaches us to be a light in the darkness. At this challenging time for Jewish people and so many others around the world, that's an important message. I'm grateful to be joined by Fany Gerson as she helps us celebrate our global Jewish family and introduce our work to all of you. I'm inspired by young Jews like Fany and so many others that I've met this year in places like Israel, Ukraine, Georgia, and Cuba. JDC builds the next generation of global Jewish leaders through JDC Entwine and our JCCs, summer camps, and more across the world. These young Jews are helping us respond to multiple crises and lift up the most vulnerable. I want to introduce you to Maria Zimina, a 17-year-old volunteer from Poltava, Ukraine. Her city is a few hours' drive from the front lines. Last year, Maria volunteered to visit 2 elderly women in her community to light Hanukkah candles and bring them holiday treats. She was so moved by the experience that she committed to visiting them every week. It's been a whole year, and Maria is still keeping her promise. Join me now as we watch her incredible story.
Сейчас время страшное, много горя, беда.
Хуже не придумаешь. Вечно сирена. Вот тут у меня шахед еще возле окна летает часто. Сидишь как на пороховой бочке.
Без Маши я бы с голоду умерла. Маша мне помогает, кормилица.
Всегда, когда мне нужна помощь, она приходит.
Я намагаюсь принести більше світла в цей світ кожен день. Вже десь близько року я відвідую цих 2 клієнток, і я відчуваю дійсно свою важливість в цьому. Я пам'ятаю, що на мою першу Хануку ми з керівником підліткового клубу ходили по домівках людей, які не можуть прийти до общини, але яким потрібно також тепло свічок. Через деякий час я подзвонила цим клієнткам, я з ними поспілкувалась, сказали, мене там звати Марія, я з Хесіду, я дуже хочу вам допомогти. Так якби почалась наша історія. Це також для мене цінно, що вони відкриваються і присутні це індивідуальне знайомство, і ми не просто приносимо продукти, і як не просто кажу дякую, до побачення, а дійсно у нас є дещо більше. Я дійсно роблю дуже важливу справу. Я знала про те, що у нас в сім'ї якби є єврейське коріння. А тут, коли я прийшла додому і сказала, що я потрапила в такий чудовий підлітковий клуб, що у мене є можливість допомагати іншим людям і реалізовувати за рахунок цього. І мій папа такий: вау, так я ходив в молодості, я був в Хесіді. Я вважаю, що це доля судьби, що я потрапила все-таки в общину, і зараз я відчуваю її цінності справді, і я проживаю своє життя в общині. У цих клієнтів немає патронажа, але у них є я. І я розумію, що якщо не я, то хто? Хто це зробить? Якщо, можливо, сьогодні я не принесу їм поїсти, то вони залишаться голодними, і це правда. І я розумію, що це відповідальність, яку я взяла на себе, і я маю її дотримуватись. Для мене Ханука – це можливість принести світло в чийсь дім, тому що моя перша Ханука саме такою і була. Община дійсно відкриває для мене багато можливостей. Незважаючи на те, що я підліток, я можу змінювати цей світ. Якби кожен з нас робив хоча б одну малесеньку добру річ, кожен день або хоча б раз в тиждень, цей світ був би вже набагато кращий. Я вірю в ханукальне чудо і в те, що одна запалена свічка дійсно може врятувати чиєсь життя.
In such tough times, Maria is an inspiration to all of us. She even visits Olga and Ludmila during blackouts or shelling. She doesn't give up. Like Maria, my brave colleagues in Israel and Ukraine and around the world continue to aid those facing conflict and rising anti-Semitism. They do this even as their own families face pain, loss, and fear. This Hanukkah, let's remember that our candles aren't just light in the darkness. They symbolize the lives we save and the miracles that we make happen. There is so much more for us to do. Millions need our help. Together with partners like the Jewish Federations and people just like you, I know that we at JDC are up to the task. Fany, back to you. I think it's time to fry some sufganiyot.
Thank you, Ariel, for that timely message of hope. So now we're gonna get back to our sufganiyot, and our dough is ready. I'm gonna take it out of the oven. All right, so look how beautiful that is. So now that it has risen like that, we're just gonna put a little bit of flour, not too much, just so it doesn't stick to your surface. Now there's a couple of ways that you can shape the actual sufganiyot. The way that the recipe says in my book is to roll it out. And you always want to, anytime you do any kind of dough, you want to use, whether it's a knife or a bench scraper like this, what you don't want to do is this. You don't want to do that because that's going to affect the texture of the sufganiyot. So, you can start working in sort of small bits. And we're gonna roll this out. You're gonna take a little bit of that flour so that it doesn't stick. Instead of starting to roll out, we're gonna bang on it. I'm gonna bang on it first, and then we're gonna roll out from center outwards and center to me. This just helps it get some of the air out, and so it's easier to roll. So you start in the center, you roll out, the center, and you come back. And you want to make sure before you start, which I forgot to mention, is you want to have a sheet pan with some parchment paper or non-stick mat to it. You want to roll it not too thick. It's about like 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch thick. After you finish rolling, you want to lift it on both sides so that it doesn't stick to the bottom. You want to make sure that nothing is sticking. Then you're going to use a cutter. So you want to dip it just a little bit. Again, shake the excess. You want to press down and then move to the side. And do the same thing. Press down and move to the side. So once you do that, you want to pull the rest gently, and then you want to set it aside like that for a second. And then you're just going to put them here. You want to leave a few inches apart. Now, when you re-roll this, you don't want to re-roll this right away. So you want to finish cutting everything you want to cut, and then you're going to come back to that. Now I'm going to show you a different way. You can use a scale so that they're all even, and you can, again, figure out how big you want them. So I think I want to make mine like 40 grams. You know, my son is learning math this year, so when we scale together, I'm like, how many more till you hit whatever number we're trying to hit, or how many do you think are gonna come out of this one? So either way, it's something very interactive. For this, I actually like to not have flour, and so what you want to do, you want to kind of pinch it, right? So it looks, so it's nice and tight. And then we're going to go like this. So you want to use this part of your hand, and you're going to roll it. As you roll it, you're going to tuck it underneath. The way we do them at my shop at Fan Donuts is this way. But every donut, regular donut, we cut like one piece, then a second piece. We make our own jams, our own sprinkles even. No colorings, no nothing. So we really take a lot of pride. So once you have the scraps, what you want to do is kind of like press them together like this. What you don't want to do is just start to knead it like that. That's what you don't want to do, because you see it already starts to come back to you. So that's going to be too elastic, and the more you work it, the less sort of fluffy and nice they're going to be. So once you have it, again like that, you want to try to re-roll it the least amount of times. But when you do, you want to make sure that you cut and you use it once it stops coming back to you. So this one, when it's like that together, you're going to set it aside. Okay, so once you have these cut, I like to kind of go back and give them a little hug, right? Because sometimes from pulling, they lose their shape. You only need to do this with the ones that you rolled and cut. So once we have it like this, we just cover them, and we're gonna put them back in our oven or just a warm area, and they're gonna rise again. Depending on the size of your sufganiyot, it's gonna take anywhere between 20 to 40 minutes to double up. So while these continue to rise, let's head over across the Atlantic for a message of inspiration from Jake Berger, a young leader in the United Kingdom.
I'm Jake. I'm recording this message from the UK. I've been honoured to work with JDC over the course of a number of years as part of the JDC End-to-End Jewish Service Corps with Jewish communities in Helsinki, Finland and Dubai in the United Arab Emirates. I often say I can lay claim to working as a Jewish professional in communities with the most extreme range in climate. Whether I've been lighting candles in the cold of a Finnish winter or the heat of the Arabian desert, Hanukkah has always been a special time for me. I was born on the holiday 30 years ago, and part of my Hebrew name is derived from one of the main characters of the festival's story, Mattisyahu. Alongside eating Fany's delicious looking donuts, one of the special rituals we partake in each night of Hanukkah is lighting the Chanukah, the origins of which are rooted in the story of the oil the Maccabees found being sufficient to keep the menorah in the temple lit for 8 days. These days, the lighting of the Chanukah has become so tied to the festival of Hanukkah that it's easy to forget that in the temple times, the menorah was not only lit on the days that we now celebrate as the Festival of Lights. Rather, the ritual of lighting the menorah happened as part of the daily act of service. Thus, the light that we associate now with only Hanukkah was in fact an everyday occurrence. In other words, although today we are only able to access the menorah's holiness for these 8 days, we should hold it as an aspiration that in an ideal world we would have access to that light each and every day. The true message of Hanukkah to me is that the lights of the candles we light each night should sustain us enough they were able to bring that spark to others for the rest of the year. JDC truly embodies this idea. As the leading global Jewish humanitarian organization, it brings light into the world by supporting communities across the globe all year round and across generations, be it cultivating a thriving Jewish future, coming to the aid of vulnerable Jews, or supporting communities at risk, as it did with my grandfather as a refugee in the late 1930s. JDC aims to be there, no matter the time, no matter the place. Wherever you find yourself in the world, I wish you a Chanukah Sameach and a year filled with light. It now gives me great pleasure to hand it over to the Kyiv Chesed Musical Ensemble as we continue this celebration. Happy Hanukkah!
Wow, that was such a gorgeous melody. And what strength to sing even against the backdrop of the ongoing crisis in Ukraine. You know, it makes me sort of think about the importance of keeping these traditions alive and, you know, how to continue bringing some joy. So we're going to go back to continuing making the sufganiyot and hope to bring you some light in this holiday. So these have risen and they're almost ready. They have been there for about 30 minutes. And so now I'm going to get everything ready. So I think once the oil heats up, it's going to be in perfect time. So you want a heavy duty pot. You don't want to use aluminum. So stainless steel, carbon, anything like that. And you want to put at least 3 inches of oil. I like to use some kind of vegetable oil with a high smoke point. You can use grapeseed oil or avocado oil as well. And then I have a sheet pan with a rack. You can also put a sheet pan or a plate with some paper towels. And then you want to have a thermometer. If you don't have a thermometer, I'm also going to show you a way to test the dough, but it is easier, and this is something that is inexpensive and you can use in many things of cooking. And have a bowl filled with sugar. It doesn't have to be very big because you're going to do a few at a time. And I like to have some chopsticks. You don't have to use chopsticks. We use these at the shop, so it's very fun. And you want some kind of slotted spoon or spider. I have a spider that I like to use. This is just regular granulated sugar, but this is another place where you can sort of make it your own. Maybe you can put some Hawaiish, or you can blend it with a little bit of orange zest or something. Maybe wherever you're from, there is something, you know, maybe there's amazing coffee. Maybe you're from Ethiopia and you want to stir that in, you know, bring a little bit of your heritage, your personality, your heart into the sufganiyot. So what we're looking for is to go to 375. Now the ideal temperature for frying is somewhere between 350 and 370. But once we put the sufganiyot in, the oil temperature is going to drop so that it's actually going to fry at around 350, 360. So we're almost there. And once it gets to 350, we're going to test the dough, so that if you don't have a thermometer, you can see what it looks like. Okay, perfect. So this is at 350 and we're gonna test it. So I'm gonna lower it a little bit while we test it. So if you don't have a thermometer, you're gonna sacrifice one or a bit of one. And you're just gonna take a bit of the dough. A lot of people are very afraid of frying, and I can certainly understand why. So your instinct is sort of to like throw it, you know, like be as far away from possible from the oil, but that's exactly how you're gonna get burnt. So even though it feels counterintuitive, you actually wanna get as close to it as possible and even touch it. So you see how that sank and then came right up, and that means it's ready. Now making donuts is a lot of work, definitely, but it's definitely worth it. So at least make them once in your life. So it just takes about a minute or two on each side, and all you're looking for is that nice golden. And even flipping them, I can feel how light they are. And that's what you want. You want a light donut that has texture. And if you don't have chopsticks, you can use a fork or a spoon, anything like that. You just want to be careful because that conducts heat. So that's why these are great. So you can put a few at a time, depending on the size of your pan. So once they're cool enough for you to handle, you want to put them in the bowl with sugar, and you just want to move them around just to coat them. And the reason you want them hot is so that the sugar really sticks to it. And you know, if you forget, it's not a big deal. Sugar will still stick to it, but it's just gonna come out much better and you're gonna get more sugar this way. But now you have to wait again. Donut making requires a lot of work, but also a lot of patience. So now we're gonna have to wait to cool them down completely to put the filling so that the fillings don't just ooze out. And also because there's always a little bit of what we call carryover cooking, which means the donut is hot, but it's still sort of working its magic inside. And you don't want to release that steam from inside that's gonna help give that nice fluffy texture. So now we're ready to fill our sufganiyot. And I have 3 different fillings. Again, you can use whatever fillings you want. So I have homemade raspberry jam, homemade strawberry jam, and I have dulce de leche. Now I have these disposable piping bags that we use in the bakery. If you don't have one, you can use a Ziploc bag and just cut the corner or something like that. So I take something like a chopstick, but you can use like the top of a knife. And when you put it in, you want to make sure you don't go all the way through, but you want to make sure you go like 3/4 of the way, and then you kind of open it up a little bit so that it's easier to fill. So I'm just going to do a few here. And the reason you want to have them sugared already, because you may be wondering, well, you're going to have like all this sugar in your hand, is because if you wait until they're cold, it's not going to adhere to it as much. So even if you lose a little bit, you can always sprinkle a little bit. Plus, as my son says, messy is fun. So you want to put this inside, and you want to get sort of in there, and you're going to start to fill it. And then you can see how it starts to sort of, that's okay, right? I'm going to show you a little trick that I do afterwards. So when you push it in, you want to start filling, and then you're going to start doing this so that that doesn't happen. But I want to show you, it's okay if it happens. So you're going to go like this, and then you're going to start to feel them a little bit heavy. So I like how that looks. So pretty. And then sometimes when you do like jams, the way we like to differentiate them at the shop is you can leave them like that, or you can put something like powdered sugar, or here we have raspberry strawberry sugar. So we take freeze-dried berries and we pulse them with confectioner's sugar. So I always like to, do little details. See that little thing that you saw before? You don't see it anymore. And it adds, I love how pretty the pink looks, but it also adds flavor as well. Now you can use regular powdered sugar as well, or you can leave them like that. I love just like a sugar donut. And sometimes, you can also add a little bit, like a little thing on top if you want to not see the side. So you can really have fun with this. And we're also gonna do one with dulce de leche. Dulce de leche is not so much Mexican, it's more Argentinian, but I just love it. And I like to do a little bit of on top. So sometimes, I'm glad that happened so that I can show you. Sometimes because of the sugar, it won't stick to it. So you just get rid of a little bit of the sugar. And there you go. I wish you could smell this sugar. It's so delicious. All right, now the best part, eat them. I don't know which one I want to try. Okay, I think this one is speaking to me right now. Look at that. So you can see it's like really nice and spongy, but still has some texture. You don't want it that's like so fluffy that it's like completely airy. You want to, at least to me, I love having like a bite to it, but it's also soft and pillowy. And beautiful jam filling. This is the raspberry, the homemade raspberry. It's so good. I really hope that you guys make a lot of these and that you have as much fun as I do with my family in making them, and that you share pictures. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out and send me a DM. So as our program comes to a close, I just want to say thank you for getting ready for Hanukkah together with me and JDC. I encourage you to visit jdc.org to learn more about this wonderful organization. And to close us out, I'm delighted to turn it over to the Hamza Family Band in Budapest, Hungary for a special rendition of the Hanukkah classic Maoz Tzur. Chag Sameach. and may it be a wonderful Hanukkah for each and every one of you. Les deseamos una feliz Hanukkah para todos ustedes y sus familias. Gracias.